So hello, welcome. I wanted to do this video, and by the way, before we begin, we might have some doggy sounds because my dog Spikey Doo, it's, always barking, doing his thing. And so today I wanted to do this interview with my friend Leo because about 2 or 3 years ago, I did 2 breathwork sessions with him. And I am very, very grateful to Leo because, I mean, dude, you were like completely like pivotal in my spiritual awakening process.
Thank you.
I remember it was like the end of 2016, back when I had like the epiphany. It's almost like a voice spoke to me and told me that I had to quit my job or something like that. It's really weird, but Leo was there really to support me, and he's been into spiritual stuff probably way longer than I have. So yeah, man, I've always been like super grateful, and I just wanted to go back to that experience and hear more about, are you still doing breath work? Like just jam with that. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a big pleasure to share this space and in trust and vulnerability. It's amazing to enter these spaces and allow them to be and be present in what we feel. It's beautiful.
Thanks. So so do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself however you want to introduce yourself? I don't know if you use any labels. Are you like a breathwork practitioner, teacher? Like
Well, it's funny that you ask this right now because I've been thinking about that this week. Actually, in my sessions, it has come moments in which I've been like, what am I in the realms of the ego? Because I usually try not to tag myself as like a spiritual seeker or like whatever you want to name it, seeking progress or meditation teacher or things like that. Because what I find is that it actually tends to add a catalog to my experience, and then it modifies my openness. So then like, oh, I have the position of the teacher, so I must behave in such a way that I show others, but then that blocks my own understanding of my own feelings by a concept of my mind. So I don't like to catalog myself like that. Like there's thoughts that have been coming to my mind around the words of like transformational agent or something like that, more than like guiding or teaching or anything. But anyway, so to introduce myself, I started meditating when I was 7. I got introduced to the practice of Zen Buddhism in the realm of Japanese martial arts. So it's like life put me in that path from a very young age, and it gave me a tool that allowed me to get through a lot of really hard situations in my childhood. So things at home were not all the time well. School was really demanding. I had to compete and be the best in karate. And so meditation had really been a tool that I've been using for, I'm going to be 33. So that's more than 20 years already. So I do still practice, of course, in terms of breath work. First of all, breath work, it's a funny word, breath work, like we're working the breath. So there's many techniques that could fall into that case. Like, for example, the technique that I shared with you is called breath wave, which comes from a technique called rebirthing breath work. But there's other techniques that could fit into that classification, because right now people are trying to sell breath work using techniques that activate the body and the mind a lot, right? Like give you like a cathartic process. So you have like a holotropic breath work, you have rebirthing breath work, you have breath wave, you have like shamanic breath work. So now it's starting to become like more of a bit of a marketing thing as well.
Yeah.
But in my understanding, the way in which I practice, techniques that are so activating that can, because like techniques, let's say for example holotropic breathwork, it activates the body and the mind so much that people tend to go into like overrides right away, and in my understanding, not necessarily, and forcing your mind into a state of heightened awareness is not necessarily going to create a release of emotional trauma, as much as consciousness and presence in the process of breath will. But we are tend to thinking that working and doing a lot and feeling a lot of intensity and release. It's, oh, I'm working, I'm progressing, right? I'm doing breath work. But in the end, is that really like taking you anywhere, you know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that is so interesting that you mention, the whole thing with labels, right? It's kind of like what you said at the beginning. As soon as you start kind of putting a box around a name around what is it that you do, it has so much potential to kind of like bias the experience a little bit.
exactly.
And the same kind of like it's happening with the idea of breath work and all the different categories. And yeah, I think in society we have like this this notion. It's kind of like, I mean, I come from like a fitness background, and it's always like, oh, it's like you have to sweat a lot and really like
Mhm.
work hard for it to be working. And it's like with time, it's like having been down that path of
Yeah.
like hit workouts and CrossFit kind of thing, and then kind of getting off that wagon, it's like you look back and you're like, was that really necessary? But now that you mentioned the type of, okay, so the type of bread that you share with me was a form of rebirthing type of bread.
Yes.
Okay. It's very interesting what you say about the effect, the really like, yeah, man, like the healing effect. Like that was a trippy experience. Like I remember, and I don't know, for me it had like a bit of a, I don't know if this is normal, but with that kind of bread, I it's like I went back. I think for the first time in my life, I enter into like the the consciousness of the child of me. I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm like, does that make any sense? Like, am I the only one, or this is like very common?
No, no, fully. I actually guided a really short breath work with a group at work that I'm working with, and one of the guys told me like it was just 15 minutes, not even half an hour. With you, it was 50 minutes of conscious connected breathing, like all the way to like all the way to the depth of your mind. Anyways, one of the guys told me like, oh, like I started getting these memories of when I was a child that I didn't know I remembered. I'm like, wow, and that was 15 minutes, you know. So what actually happens is that like there is many things that happen into our lives that do not get processed through language, you know, and that actually most of them do not. But sometimes things happen, and let's say for example, like I don't know, you get an experience of fear, and then you feel like this overwhelming vibration of fear in your belly and heart, and then you do not have the tools to process it, and you do not have anyone next to you that has the tools to help to process it. So what happens is that those vibrations, that energy, let's say, it just stays in your system, right? And it becomes part of it. And sometimes those things happened at an age that there was no language. So you cannot understand it with your mind. And it doesn't really make sense to say, okay, so now I'm working on the sadness that happened the day that my dad hit me because then he was not happy and he lost his job. And it's just mental burden. It's vibrational frequencies that are stuck, that are still, that are how could I say, not stuck, but that are still a part of our frequency. So then when we start breathing into those parts, consciously breathing, bringing air, bringing prana in there, what actually starts happening is that those frequencies start moving. So you start feeling them, and you breathe in more and you exhale. Breathe in, relaxed, exhale, relaxed. Air starts coming into your belly, into your heart, into your head, and then those things start moving. So you start feeling them again. And once again, it doesn't really matter what it was in terms of your words. The mind doesn't need to understand it to release it. It right now, it could be a ball of things like being bullied at school, feeling guilt for something, feeling anger for something else, and it's just like a ball of energies. And then with the breath, with conscious breathing, you start accessing them, and they start moving, right? So then, what changes now is that if you do it consciously, if you take that inner journey to go inside and to look at how things are inside, then you're conscious. So these energies can get reprocessed in a different way because you're consciously breathing. And if you open yourself to the sensations, not to understanding with your mind, but to the sensations that are arising through the breath in the body, then that equanimity united with the conscious breathing can allow them to come out and allow them to become free. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it works, more or less. We bring energy everywhere, things start moving. And with the training of the mind of being present with the sensations as they are, with the feeling of being alive as it is, not as I want to understand it, but as it is, then we can reprocess these stuck energies in a conscious way and have them bounce back to the universe.
Yeah, that is like a very beautiful explanation. And it's funny, as you were describing the process of, releasing and yeah, releasing, processing the emotions. I had like a lot of, like you said, it's not always the words. As you were talking, I just had like mental, like visual imagery. And yeah, the way I see it, it's almost like all this, all the trauma that gets kind of stored in our body. And yeah, that's a funny thing. It's like sometimes it can be like little things, right? It's like that time when your mom told you when you were 5 years old that you had to change the backpack that you were wearing, and it like creates this like super like um something gets stored in your body, and then you don't process it. The way I see it, it's almost like all these things that are like these emotions that are like kind of apart from you, by giving them, you know breath, it's almost like they can merge with the whole and kind of like be released into.
They start moving, exactly. And like,
Exactly.
go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
it's it's funny that like I have a friend that was telling me that like in order to release she needs to understand things, and I was like, yeah, but up to a point. Because in my opinion, what actually happens is that what is happening right now actually, like, nothing really has a meaning, but the meaning we decide to give it. Not even meditation or breath work, they don't really have a meaning, but the meaning my mind wants to give to it. So for example, let's say if I'm trying to process something, I'm like, okay, so this came from my ancestors and that came to my mom, and the abuse in my family and blah 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 blah. It's interesting to understand it with your mind to a point, but then in my opinion, in order for real or true healing to happen, that can only happen at the level of the physical sensations, by understanding them, but not with your mind, with your attention, with your presence. Like, okay, so I'm feeling this fear. Like, where is it? Okay, it's in my stomach, a bit to the left. Just let it be. Like, don't push it away. Just let it be. Like, be with it. Be with it. Like, be with it. Be with it. Like if you're nurturing a child that fell, like just be with him. Like, no need to do anything. It's gonna pass. Just take it into your arms. The same feeling, but with this feeling. You just take into your arms, like, welcome it, like, I'm here for you, like, and just let it be. And at some point, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, it just changes. It's like, whoa, it changed, wow. But then if I give it a meaning with my mind, I just keep stirring it, in my opinion. And it keeps being there, and you keep trying to understand it, and it just becomes like, a big drama, meaning about this, I feel bad with that person, and then it just becomes a mental game. But in order, like, that is what I see as letting go, is to surrender to what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not letting go, like, oh, I feel nothing. No, no, no. Yeah, like, accept reality as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you feeling? Like, be with it and be present with it and love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you bring an interesting point. I'm also like a huge proponent of kind of like a holistic approach to healing, right? It's like I cognitive work for me helped me a lot, like having had like experience with generalized anxiety, social anxiety, doing cognitive work, getting to the point to where I understood the no meaning
Mm-hmm.
nature of reality. Cognitive work helped me for that. But like you
Nice.
said, you reach a point. It's like, okay, once you kind of have a handle on your mind, then it's like, okay, that's good. But then it's like, now it's like the body has like everything else. And that's where you can do thought work or cognitive behavioral therapy
Mm-hmm.
to get you out of to process an emotion. It's like you
Exactly.
can try to rationalize and say that it's like you said, it was like, yeah, it's a trauma from my ancestors or this or that, but it's like the actual processing of the feeling
That was not done at that time.
Exactly. And it can only be done with something that kind of like speaks the language of the body. And the way I saw, like, because yeah, like you said, the session we did together, and we did two, right? Because one was like in one place. Yeah. It's like the breath was like it's almost like a rope that that keeps you there in the presence. You know what I mean? It's like, because otherwise I think it's like so easy to kind of like try to, because yeah, we're not taught, like it's not something that we teach in school to just like sit with our feelings or to breathe and to just be like, it's always like distract yourself from your feelings, go eat a little something, you're bored, go watch TV. And it's always like trying to get us out of the feeling. So yeah, like I think so. Why do you think it's important? This is where I was going. Why do you think it's important to kind of like have someone that guides you to that process, kind of like what you did with me?
Well, in this type of sessions that are really activating, in the sense that they are actually meant, this type of breath, what it's actually meant to do is to like trigger stuck emotions. What can actually happen is that sometimes the mind of the practitioner is not trained enough in equanimity. I can speak about that later. In the sense that if something arises that is too intense for the person, then fear can arise and rejection can come. And it's like, whoa, like, why am I feeling so much anger or fear? I'm just breathing here. What am I doing here? Like, why did I come? This person is crazy. And then it just becomes like another trauma, and you just make that ball bigger. And since there's no training in equanimity in order to be able to press it on your own, then the trauma just comes back in. And potentially it comes back in bigger because you just push it away again. So it's important to have someone there trained in order to mainly hold an equanimous presence, a loving presence, and say everything's fine, you can process. Of course, we have training techniques. Thank you, Robin, my teacher, so much for all the blessings that I received from you. If you watch this video, I'm thinking of you. Yeah, we've been trained in order to have enough tools to be able to assist someone through this process. But the main tool is presence and calmness and love. Equanimous giving love. Everything's fine. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to process it. And it, like, having someone like that next to you, like at some point you can do it on your own. I actually right now I'm doing a breath challenge, we could call it. I'm doing I'm actually going to try to do the full moon cycle, breathing once a day, 1 hour. And I've had enough experience that I can do that on my own now. But I know even for me, for example, having someone guiding me, like someone with just a loving presence next to me, helps. Like, it's crazy. It's just like it just helps being present a lot. So that's mainly what we do. And yeah, just to like assist things to flow, to come out through equanimous love and understanding.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I mean, this is like the magic of having each other, of having other humans to hold space for us. And yeah, because I don't know, sometimes in this whole like spiritual self-development stuff, like sometimes it's easy to kind of fall in the trap of like, I can do everything myself, kind of like, I don't need like anyone. But it's like when you do any kind of like breath work or energy work or even like other kinds of healing, having that presence of someone else that's not that, of course, if having the tools to hold the space for someone like that is so important, right? Because you don't want to be freaking out if the other person freaks out.
Exactly.
And because that wouldn't help. But yeah, no, it's a good thing that we have each other, and that we all have different journeys and different levels of things we have integrated, things that we're working on. So yeah, it is a beautiful thing that we have each other.
And I actually there's something interesting to add that I've been experiencing through these last few years of practicing breath work with people and on my own, is that these techniques are sometimes so powerful that, like I've seen people, and actually it happened to myself probably 4 or 5 years ago, that you come into a session and you get this big release, you cry, you're like, wow, like, oh, this anger, this sadness, like you'd feel vibrations everywhere, like, oh, your body's like, and when you finish, you cannot even move. And then if you're not trained, if your mind is not aware of the law of equanimity, of the law of anicca, that everything is changing, and that even that release was an illusion, then the mind can generate like an almost immediate attachment to that feeling of release, right? Because you felt so good, it felt so like, you feel a weight off your shoulders, and then you come back into the next session looking for that, and you might find it. But then you come to a third session looking for that, and you pay someone, and you're like, okay, I gave this guy $50. Like, where is the release? Like, so then you come into a session with your mind full of expectations, because the the feedback you actually got from the last session was so strong, but you're not training the fact that everything's changing. So then it can become a blocker as well. You know what I mean? So in my experience right now, I'm working with some people right now. I have two patients, practitioners, I don't know how to call them, Gleb and Andrew. And one of them told me, you don't know, like I work, and then when I feel anger, I do push-ups, and like, don't push it away, like if you feel anger, just allow yourself to feel it. So right now, the approach that I'm taking is that instead of inviting people to do like I did with you, that with you worked perfectly, because you have your own practice and you are versed into this world. Uh, with them, what I'm doing right now is that I'm trying to develop knowledge of the breathing mechanism in the body mind first with pranayama, with ujjayi. You probably know ujjayi. And also training on mindful equanimity. So just being with the body, sitting with reality as it is, and understanding at the level of the physical body how things change. Like you sometimes feel here, it's sometimes pressure, then it becomes like tingling, then it's gone, then it moves to the leg. So sitting with reality in reality's terms is the most important. It's the base technique.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think one of the questions I was having this morning when I was kind of thinking about the time that we were going to spend together was that it's like, I was wondering, for which level of consciousness do you think that breath work of this kind, let's say like the rebirthing type, would work best? Because it's funny, because when I went, I don't even think I was fully aware yet. I don't like using the word awaken, because like it can mean so many things, but the way I describe it for me is, to me, like, to awake is to realize that you're kind of the watcher of your mind. Before I was awake, I didn't know the difference, man. And I know this may sound weird to you, because you're telling me that you've been into like meditation stuff since you're like 7 years old. All my teenage years, I was like unconscious, man. I was one with my mind. I was the pain body, like Eckhart Tolle calls it. I was walking mind. and so that's like the pre-consciousness. And then it's like, I as I started getting to more consciousness, which, by the way, I always remember, you were literally the first person who exposed me to the concept of, well, it's like, if you're not your thoughts. I think one day, out of nowhere, man, this is back when we were working at
YP.
at YP together. Yeah, Leo and I work at a corporate, big corporation together. And you were literally the first person to tell me, like, if you're not like your thoughts, then like, who's the person watching them, or something like that. And I remember my mind being like, what are you talking about? And then like spending days thinking about that. So I just love how, seriously, dude, you have been like pivotal in my awakening process. So all this to say that, do you think that breath work works best for people who have already gained a bit of that consciousness watcher type of thing, like?
That's an interesting question. Actually, I think that it can have a very positive effect on almost anyone. But in my case, at least, what I like to do is I like to train people to not depend on me, because like, let's say if someone comes and comes to a facilitator, and then the facilitator guides them every single time, and he knows what he's doing or she knows what she's doing, that can be okay, because like we tend to like build up to it, tell them to like, okay, so now feel the body, allow things to come in, feel the sensations, allow the breath to come in. So if the person wants to be guided every single time, I think that even for someone that's starting, that's gonna be fine. But in my case, I like to train practitioners to not depend on me. So I give them the base tools so that they can keep on their own at some point. Mm-hmm. So if that's the approach that is to be taken, I think that at some point the practitioner can become so independent and so clear that can actually keep on doing meditation and breathwork on their own. So yeah, mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting way of saying things, and I definitely agree with. I do like that whole notion of teaching people the tools, right? It's like exactly. Empowering them, really kind of like at the core. Well, it's totally okay to be guided by other people, to sometimes need other people to guide us, but yeah, ultimately we all have we all have this power within us.
Exactly. And just to add to that, the base, as I said before, has to be equanimity and has to be understanding of the fact that everything is changing, because mm-hmm. the law of the universe, like, is just change. Like, this planet is gonna be gone at some point. The sea is gonna stop the waves, like the universe is gonna contract again. And the only truth that we have for certain is that everything's gonna change. We're gonna die. Everything's gonna change. And that truth can be observed in the body. If you stay quiet enough, you focus your mind, and you start observing the body, you can see how things are changing, rapidly changing. So then if that becomes the base of your spiritual work we don't have another word in English, then if you're grounded into that, then you can go into breath work, you can go into plant medicine, you can go and do like a 20-day retreat in the desert, and you're going to have the tool to know that everything's changing. So you're going to remain grounded, and remaining grounded in the fact that everything's changing is what Buddha was calling the truth. Mm-hmm. He was saying that in order to be sure that you're walking the path to freedom, you need to be aware of two things: either breath or physical sensations, and the contents of your mind. So what is behind your actions? What is the intention behind your thoughts and your actions? So let's say, for example, am I calling Sonia because I want to get something out of her, or because I want to share, I just want to share this love, share this good vibe, or what am I doing? Why am I doing things? So those two things, physical sensations and the contents of your thoughts, were what Buddha said that was going to give you, bring you without any hesitation at some point in this life or another to full enlightenment and freedom. Mm-hmm. So that for me is the base always. And on top of that, you can add other things, but the main base is that everything's changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the physical sensations, the contents of the mind. It's really like it's basically like our guiding mechanism too. Mm-hmm. It's like those are like the connection points that we have with this reality. So, and I mean, that's why, I'm like such a huge proponent of like, it starts with self-awareness, but then it's like, it starts with, being able to I don't like the word controlling your mind, but for a lot of people like me, for example, back when I had like social anxiety, general anxiety, to get to the point where you feel like you can control your mind, it's very empowering, right? Which is why like I and actually I did a video, but I realized that my lens was totally out of focus, so I'm probably just gonna turn it into like an MP3 or something like that. But I did a video on this whole idea of like levels of consciousness, right? Because, you know, I work with some people, and, you know, everyone's in this path on like different stages, right? It's like some people are very awakened, you know, relative to one specific topic, but they have like blind spots in another, I don't know, area of life. You know, they have like trauma or things that have not yet been resolved. So yeah, for me, it's like it's and the way I kind of like want to keep my channel is that I want to have a bit of content that speaks to different people who may be like in different levels of consciousness. You know, some people who might be more into like the, you know, setting intention and kind of like trying to you know, create their reality, and more people like, I don't know, the way I kind of like see your vibe, where I am kind of going into, but still with, you know, some attachments in other areas. It's more like the whole surrender thing and just being the tree that's just like
observing,
chilling. Yeah, exactly. And I still have, and I mean, it's like, I know it, I still have some, you know, some attachments. There's still like many areas in my life where I'm kind of like, I would love to control that, thank you. But you know, it's like to realize also that this is not like a one-time thing that you can just, you know, heal everything and be like, it's gone. So also because we're gonna keep having experiences in life. It's like right now with like COVID-19, it's like, who knew that this would happen? And the trauma it's also creating for some people. So yeah, it's basically the law of change. It is true. It's like it's constantly changing. Just when you thought that you knew the rules, the universe is like, no, you didn't.
That's completely true. And as you say, we are gonna keep on having experiences in life, and it's always gonna be like a wave, you know. It's always gonna be ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And even if you become fully enlightened, you know, there might be times that anger arises, you know, and that's not gonna change. Like, I'm gonna say it like this, but shit's gonna keep on happening, you know. The only thing that we can change, that we can for sure change, that I've seen that change in me and others, is that we can change the way we react to anger. We can change the way we react to sadness. And at some point, that the understanding that everything is based in emptiness, in the sense that everything that I see is actually created by my mind, you know, it's kind of intangible, like it is, but it is not. If that understanding can become so deep, then sadness is not going to mean sadness. It's going to be a physical sensation that's going to change, you know? And it's going to be like, as soon as the mind becomes absent and says, I'm feeling sadness, then that sensation is just another sensation, and happiness is another sensation, and anger is, and it's just all the same.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's always like that labeling, that whole like the mind just like chattering and making drama, you know, the comments and giving its opinion.
I've suffered so much. I've suffered so much. Oh, poor me.
Yeah, what's fascinating with the mind, it's like, yeah, so some people that have done like life coaching with me, they're like at the beginning of their journey, let's say, and it's really funny how like all minds are always at the very beginning, you're always like, am I the only one who feels anxious? Or it's like, am I the only one who has like these thoughts? And then it's like the deeper you go into kind of understanding how the mind works, you realize that it's like the same pattern. Just like a pattern that just like repeats, and the mind just does what the mind does. So
exactly. And it just tries to give itself importance and keep on doing it and keep on doing it. So
it's very funny how the mind works. So yeah, we can start wrapping things up soon. I was going to ask you, are there any, so besides breathwork, the breathwork challenge that you're doing these days, what else, what other tools or things are you enjoying these days?
Well, right now, in terms of my practice, since I have more time because I don't have to be in the metro or anything, what I'm actually doing right now in the morning is that I'm getting up to like a bit of like physical activation. So I either do some yoga, or there's this really nice set of exercises called the 5 Tibetan rites. that pretty much what it is that it's a system that was developed in Tibet that was summarizing 1 hour practice into 5 exercises. So you can get the benefits of 1 hour yoga practice doing 5 exercises. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's really good for the heart. And there's people that have done experiments on it, and it's supposed to be really good. I can share that with you later. So I do either that or I do yoga, like, you know, like a downward facing dog, uttanasana, like something that activates chest and belly. And then I do 1 hour and 10 minutes conscious connected breathing session. The branch that I learned from is called breath wave, and it comes from my teacher Robin. And it's called breath wave because when we breathe and we activate, it looks like a wave. So the belly rises, the chest rises, it lets go. So it really looks like a wave, and it feels like a wave. It's really nice. Yeah. And then I start working. And then at nights, what I do is that, like, I sit 1 hour. I was doing vipassana, you know, so I was doing like scanning my body and feeling my breath first, you know, starting here. And if the mind is focused enough, then start scanning the body. Then if it's still focused enough, you start feeling the whole body as a whole. And if it's still focused enough, you start feeling your senses open. Otherwise, you just stay with the breath. What I try to do is that, you know, instead of following a practice, like a step 1, step 2, step 3, I follow the quality of my mind and of my breath. So just start sitting in silence, and I start feeling, you know, what it feels to be alive. What does it feel to be alive today? So maybe it's the rise of the belly and the fall of the belly and the chest, or maybe it is tingling sensations here. So just opening yourself to the present through the sensations. You know, like it's like the sensations are the entry point to the inner world. The attention is your boat, and the breath is the air that pushes you. So then if my mind is focused enough, then I start scanning the body. Otherwise, I just stay with the breath, you know. It's more than trying to take my practice somewhere to achieve something. I like to allow it to follow me, to just follow the breath, follow the mind. Where is it going? Bring it back to the present. Okay, stay with the breath. Am I focused enough? I can proceed. Otherwise, just stay here. And right now, I'm trying to do it like a bit more in a more relaxed way. So I'm trying to to put my body in different positions and just be aware of it, you know. So instead of just sitting straight, I just try to, like, for example, I sit cross-legged, or I stretch my legs, or I just lay back in the couch and I just feel what's happening right now, like a bit less controlled even, you know, like just feel what's happening right now. But since I'm at home, and something that I recommend to anyone that's seriously practicing, the most important, in my opinion, thing to do is to, for example, right now, come back to the present. You know, I feel my whole body, like this shoulder was a bit up, just let it down. Feel the both of the feet, you know, the whole surface. Just train your mind to come back as quick as possible. Okay, I'm back here. Okay, just keep on working. And then as soon as I remember, you know, because if I'm working, then I need my mind. So it's fine to use your mind. Your mind's for using it. That's amazing. But as soon as I know that I'm using it and that it's being used without a purpose, you know, I'm thinking about what my friend told me and why that message was not answered. And oh God, like, oh, what's this nonsense talk? You know, like, just come back again. So reinforce that ability to come back. And you keep on working. You go to the kitchen. Maybe you're really grounded today, so you get up and you feel all the movements touching, you know, of the clothes, and you stay really grounded in your body. You invoke Tadasana all the time. You know, Tadasana, push your crown up, and feeling be as present as you can in your body, and know, like right now, it's really important to know that some of the feelings that we're feeling, you know, like I've been having, like a few days ago, I was feeling so sad. Like, I'm like, what's going on? Like, why am I feeling so sad? And it's not necessarily something that we are experiencing because of our own trauma, but there's a lot of energy moving around. Like, because everyone's at home and everyone's having a hard time. Exactly. So some of us are processing the energy of the collective. And it's very important to know that this energy, these feelings, this sometimes intense, they do not belong to you. Even the happiness doesn't belong to you. Just It's just energy moving. It's just a feeling. Just let it be and stop giving yourself importance. Just let it come. Let it pass through you. Stay present. Let it pass through you. Stay present and stay grounded. So that is what I recommend to do throughout the day as a continuous practice. Aware of the mind, what's going on in the mind, what are the contents of it, what's the intention behind my actions, and the physical body. Around that, I do encourage to have a practice in the morning and in the evening. Even yoga is fine. Like having something that brings you back to your body. Either if you want to do breath work, there's in pranayama, there's several exercises like ujjayi. Viloma also is really nice. And the most important thing, be present in your body in general. That's what I recommend.
Yeah, it's true. You're totally right that while, doing long practices, really taking the time is super, super important and powerful. Sometimes, just like you said, having the habit and the awareness of just when you watch your mind go down the weeds and the whole thing, just to simply like ground yourself in like literally takes like a short period. Like you can just learn to kind of like ground yourself every time. But yeah, it is for sure nice to dedicate a longer time. And excellent word on the whole collective thing. I think some of the people who have told me that they watch my videos, they really identify themselves as being very like empathetic, like as empaths kind of thing, as people who are really like sensitive to other people's energy. In human design, that's also associated to having like an undefined solar plexus center, which I've been doing a lot of human design kind of stuff in my channel too, and to remind ourselves of that some of this collective vibes that we're getting don't belong to us, and they can just pass through us. For sure.
We're processing the trauma of the planet right now, of the collective energy. So
for sure. So okay, so just before we go, Leo, do you want to share any, are you creating like any content these days, or is there any places where people can talk to you if they want to talk to you? Like, are you...
Well, I've been recording meditations and breathworks, but I have like I probably uploaded like 4 or 5, and I have like 7 or 8 more, but I haven't taken the time to upload them. So right now, you asking motivates me to do it. I'm gonna take the time to do it this week. And so yeah, there's my YouTube channel that you can follow for practices. And I mean, like right now, if anyone wants to like get in touch with me, it can be done through Facebook, Instagram, and I'm really happy to help people process things, to help that transformation start and then happen on its own in everyone. So if you want to reach me, you can probably post my contacts with this video, and I'll be more than glad, because I've been feeling the call these last few weeks to actually like start opening myself to receiving more people, like that are interested in practicing meditation, breath work, maybe even creating a website or something. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna allow that to flow. But if people contact me with a message, I'll be more than happy to answer and to provide some guidance.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll leave that contact information in the comments, in the description of the video. And okay, I think we have covered everything. This was an amazing time. It was super, super nice. I am so grateful to have you in my life. I cannot wait to see you, Ben. We live in the same city. We live so close to each other. We literally
that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we literally live so close to each other, but we're like following the social distancing preventive measures, but soon it will be it's just, and like I was telling you the other day, I'm like, I'm kind of enjoying a bit of like hermit time these days. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to see each other soon and give each other a big hug. And I am sending you a big virtual hug, and thank you so much for doing this
Thanks you.
interview.
let's do a super short exercise, like 30 seconds with everyone that's watching this.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Let's sit straight. Let's invoke Tadasana shoulders, so rolling our shoulders back, inviting the shoulder blades to come together and down. Just gonna take 3 conscious breaths. So we're gonna do it in the following way. We're gonna do a diaphragmatic breath, so inviting the breath into the lower belly, then the rib cage, and then the chest. And then when we're full, we're just gonna drop the exhale. So we're gonna just allow the exhale to go like a balloon. This type of breath tells your nervous system that everything is fine. It sends your whole body a relaxation message. So it is to be done whenever you want, of course, but if you have times of stress, if you have a really challenging time at work, just sit straight, feel your body. So let's start. Let's connect with the sensations. Whichever sensation arises, maybe the touch of the chair, very present. The entry point to the inner world. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna count. So let's inhale 1, 2, and 3. I just feel the space that the breath created. It's amazing the effect one conscious breath can have in your system. May all beings be happy.